I'm telling you, you're going to love this. My guest is Michael Childers, celebrity portraitist, I guess we should say, or photographer.
Photographer. Yeah.
But you take beautiful,
I take
beautiful
portraits. Yeah.
Yes, you do. So we're going to talk about your career, who you've shot, who maybe you haven't shot that you would still like to. So let's go back to North Carolina. Somebody gave you a camera.
Yeah, my father was in the military, stationed in Japan. He brought back a little thing called, I'd never heard of, called a Nikon. And I think I was 16, and I used it for taking high school pictures for the annual in the newspaper. And then I went to UCLA, and I've used it as a tool. Instead of having a part-time job, I said, well, I can make money taking pictures, doing headshots of actors, and that started actors. And then I got a writer called Ray Bradbury, my first author. I mean, that's bingo, a great writer. And so I was making a lot of money. I worked my way through school, and Jim Morrison of The Doors was in my class, and some extraordinary people who were there at UCLA at that time.
You have worked as a photographer for at least 50 years?
52.
52 years. Yeah. You've probably shot photos of the wealthiest, the famous, and we're going to go through some of those in a second. But the first person you shot of note, do you remember who it was? And were you nervous that they wouldn't like it? Or what were your thoughts?
Well, Ray Bradbury was the first author. And he was so wonderful and magical and great stories, a great storyteller. My first movie star was Natalie Wood. I mean, she's so great.
Who you became friends with.
Yeah, we later became friends with. And I said, can I take pictures of you with your new baby? And she said, well, I don't allow my children to be photographed. But she allowed me, and we did most beautiful photographs. Grainy film. Remember black and white film? And
I love black
grainy
and white film.
And soft, and they were used, published in English Vogue. She fell in love with my photography, and I did most of her pictures for the next 60 until she died.
Is it true that you went on her honeymoon and took photos of her?
I've never been on a honeymoon. I was married for 37 years to a wonderful English director, John Schlesinger, but I don't think we had a honeymoon.
But what about Natalie?
But Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner and Perry Match and the London Times called me up and said, would you like to go on a honeymoon with Robert and photograph? I said, in Venice, Italy? Yeah, with Natalie Wood. Sounds good. Where are we staying? Cipriani? Ooh, even better. So a week photographing them, sharing their honeymoon experiences, and so much Prosecco and Bellinis, and a great time.
When you shoot, how do you like your set? Has it changed over the 52 years? How do you do lighting? How is it that your portraits are the way they are? How did you set yourself apart?
Well, because I was really a film major.
At UCLA?
Yeah, UCLA, yeah. And I learned film lighting from working on some of the great, worked on 120 movies, and I've done about 60 movie posters. And but I learned from the great cinematographers. I love stealing all their gimmicks, their techniques, and they were my gods. Jimmy Wong Howe, Conrad Hall, Haskell Wexler. These are great people.
Did you ever pinch yourself as you were doing
Yeah, I did. And so I was using a lot of movie light. But later, as photography became flash, and digital, and I had studios, and then we did white studios. But when I had my Hollywood studio, I had a black studio, and because you could control the bounce. I don't like bounce. I like directional lighting. And that's I was lucky enough. We had the same agent, George Harrell, the great movie photographer, did all the great images at MGM. Would rent my studio occasionally, and finally one day I said, George, I don't want your $1,000 for rent, would you take a portrait of me? So he took a portrait of me. I mean, I look like Gary Cooper.
I want that kind of lighting. All right,
Oh,
let's start looking at some of the
Yeah.
pictures that we have. All right, this is Ringo Starr. Where did you take this? What do you remember about taking this photo?
Well, that was for Rolling Stone, and it turned out to be the cover. I had the assignment for Rolling Stone, and his wife, Barbara, was a great friend of mine. I'd done many sessions with her, so I sort of got an in to Ringo through her. John Lennon had just been shot 2 weeks before this was taken, and his manager said, I don't think he's going to feel like being photographed or posing for nothing, you know, but he showed up, yeah. And I was told, you know, just bring whatever he wanted to. But I did, Bridget Riley is one of my favorite painters, English painter. And that background I had copied off of Bridget Riley. And so he arrived with those pants, those striped pants, so that it all looked great.
It looks like it was set up.
The art
didn't know he
director.
was going to wear those
No,
pants.
I didn't know he was going to wear the pants, and he couldn't have been nicer and more charming. And it was really great. And he told me, he said, "Look, you know, being a Beatle, it's changed my life now that John Lennon has been shot, because we can never go out ever anywhere in the world, you know, out in the streets, do this. You know, our life is Beatles, you know, so."
You have such history in your head. How do you remember all of this over 52 years?
I can remember 52 years, but I can't remember where my car keys are.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, Cat Stevens. What do you remember about this photo of
Cat
Cat
Stevens was one of my first pop stars, and I was living in London at that time in the early 70, 71, 72, and the great music scene and coming out of England then. And well, my first big break in music was Elton John. I did his second album cover, Honky Chateau.
Oh, can you dish
yeah.
about Elton?
Yeah, no, he's great.
I know, he
love
seems
that
awesome.
that movie. It's so great, you know. But yeah, he was great to work with. And because of Elton's shots turning out great, I got a new kid that this manager had, Dick James, a real character with 3 cigars going. Said, you know, you did really good, kid. I think I've got another client for you. He's a bit weird looking, looks like a cockatoo. And it turned out to be Rod Stewart. So I did Rod Stewart. And because that turned out great, I got Cat Stevens, who I photographed for many years.
What did the stars love about your photographs, that they just kept using your name?
I tried to capture their essence and not let my style sink them. You know, I want to know where they're coming from, and I try to work, and I try to discuss with them what that photo session would be, and collaboration.
Did they want to edit your stuff, or did you?
They're
hold
all
back?
edited now, yeah. There's approvals and this and that, and
Did that drive you crazy? Because I mean, you're an artist.
only towards the end, when the publicist took over the whole industry. And then a lot of my photographer friends, famous people like Herb Ritz, who was my assistant one time, and Greg Gorman, they just rebelled against the power, because it was killing the photography.
The cell phone has done that too.
Yeah.
What do you think of the cell phone photography? Gotcha. All right, Bette Midler.
Bette Midler. Oh. Well, I first saw her in New York in 1968. She was upstairs at the downstairs of the little dive on 56th Street, and she was playing to a Pepsi Cola Corporation dinner. And everyone in New York had said, you got to go see this girl, she's so wild. And she became a friend. Through the years, when we did a movie called Marathon Man, we took Laurence Olivier to see her in Clams on the Half Shell, and he fell in love with her too. And she's performed in 2 of my charity events, and I was produced a commercial for an AIDS shelter in Los Angeles, and she agreed to be in the commercial. She's just a great lady.
Sounds like you have a wonderful life.
Well, I'm blessed. I try to give back. I do a lot of charity work. I've raised about $12 million for various charities.
That's terrific. All right, Catherine Deneuve.
Oh,
I love her.
I love her.
Stunning woman.
She is France. Vive la France.
Tell me about her.
She, I guess she had what Garbo had, or she comes in and she's another worldly person. And this particular photo session was for the cover of French Vogue and LA Magazine. And she wasn't really in the mood to be photographed, but my French agent, who was friends with her, said, "Oh, Michael is so good with women, he'll make you look divine," blah, 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 blah. She was an hour and a half late for the photo session. When she got there, she had told us the night before, "I don't want a makeup and hair person, I can do it." When she got there, she had too much champagne at lunch, and she said, "I must have hair and makeup." So somewhere, I don't know how I did it, I found a hair and makeup. They were over in my studio in 10 minutes. I said, "It's Catherine Deneuve." And they, so we photographed it, and this particular photograph, she is, I knew her sister, who was a big star before Catherine was.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Françoise Dorléac, and she was magical, an extrovert. Catherine is an introvert, and she said, "You knew my sister, Françoise?" I did. She was killed in a car accident, horrible car accident, and we were talking about her, and I noticed when we talked about her sister, she had a tear in her eye, so that I got a tear in her eye there when talking about her sister.
It's a stunning
Isn't
photograph.
that great? You know, I only got tears with that, and the last portrait I did of Gore Vidal, who was the coldest, iciest man in the world, who I broke through, and I got a tear out of him.
How did you do that?
Because I knew his lover, and for 40 years, and I knew Italy. I stayed in his house in Ravello, and we were talking, and he was at the end of the road. He knew he was going to die. He didn't want to die in America. He was very unhappy what was happening with his country. He actually predicted a lot what's happening now. But and we talked about the good old days, and then he drew me close to him to say goodbye, and I knew it was a final goodbye. He died 2 months later. And there was a tear in his eye. I didn't get to photograph the tear, but I got good pictures.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Natalie Wood.
Natalie.
And you talked about her, that she was a friend, and I read that you were supposed to be on the boat the night that she disappeared.
Yeah, on the Splendor. I had just finished doing the movie Brainstorm with Natalie in North Carolina. She was doing it with her co-star Christopher Walken. And
Who was on the boat with Roger?
well, yeah, and I
Robert
called up Natalie's best friend and said, we were invited to go Thanksgiving weekend to Catalina on the boat. Are you going to go? And she said, well, I was thinking about it, but there's a rumor that Chris Walken might be coming on board. I said, uh-oh, because I was in North Carolina with Chris Walken and Natalie. I said, I'm not going on that boat. That's trouble. That's no. So Delphine, her friend, and I decided not to go on the boat that weekend. And strangely enough, we both think if one of us had been on that boat that weekend, Natalie would still be alive. And I sort of know what...
Are you haunted by that?
I am, and I sort of know what happened because I'd slipped on that deck out there, and it was filled with moss, and you know, it was just a lot of screaming and too much alcohol and Ambien, and the captain who left the metal dinghy banging on, that just didn't put the buoys out. It was banging against the front of the boat. She got up. You know, after she'd fallen asleep, on the Ambien and the vodka, and then went out with a pea coat on. It was freezing cold. It was Thanksgiving, and she slipped, as I had slipped many times on the deck, and her head hit the side of the metal boat and knocked her unconscious.
Were you ever questioned by police in that case?
Many times. And last time, 3 years ago, because they're always trying to
Find something.
find something on Robert Wagner, who is a great friend of mine. It's usually because of Lana, if Natalie Wood's sister needs to pay rent or something. She sells it to National Enquirer. And it goes on, and Steven Spielberg's company, Amblin, is making a 2-hour documentary about the life of Natalie Wood.
Will you be in it?
Oh, they filmed me twice, and it'll be coming out next January. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Glad to know that.
Yeah.
All right, Shirley MacLaine.
Shirley, force of nature.
Why do you say that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, she's extraordinary. She's quirky, she's strong, she's smart. I worked on 2 films with her where she was not very nice to me, so I was a little afraid and intimidated by her. But then later, my husband directed her in a movie called Madame Suzatska. She was wonderful in that movie, and she couldn't have been sweeter to me, you know? And she liked my picture. She said, you know, kid, you're pretty good after all. So then we were in LA, and she asked me to do her book cover on chakras, or whatever, the 7 chakras and all that. And so I got to, and I photographed the poster for Madame Suzatska.
I can't believe you can remember all this. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah. This is an interesting shot.
Oh man, this is so good. Oh.
What's
Look
the deal
at that.
here?
Look at the wallpaper and that bedspread.
He looks small in that
Oh,
bed.
he's huge, and I love Arnold. He's so funny, a great sense of humor. But he said, Michael, don't you love the bedspread? My mother in Austria made this for me, and because it goes with that beautiful wallpaper, I went, whoa.
So
and he said, the bed is made from the Santa Monica Pier, the wood. I said, that's the most unusual bed I've ever seen, you know. So that was his first. You know, when he was first winning Stay Hungry and Pumping Iron, those movies, and that was his first money, and that was his first condo he ever had.
Have you seen him since?
Yeah, a few times. And I did the poster for Terminator with him.
Did you really?
I did Terminator 1, and then Conan the Barbarian, I did that. I had a great time with Arnold and Maria Shriver. We met in my studio in Los Angeles. So the little spark started there, you know.
Oh, so you witnessed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sir Laurence Olivier, you talked about him a little bit.
Yeah, when I was finishing Midnight Cowboy in New York, I worked on an outrageous nude musical called O Calcutta. And Ken Tynan was the English dramaturge of the National Theatre. He's one of the producers. He said, I understand you coming to London, dear boy. Why don't you come and work with Larry and I at the National Theatre? I said, Larry. He said, Laurence Olivier. So when I got to England, he said, come over. And they liked my photographs, and I did 16 productions for the National Theatre of Great Britain. And to this day, I'm the only American who's ever been allowed to photograph on the stage in National Theatre. And that's,
look at you go, Michael.
Look at, I mean, I was 25 years old, and I was photographing Maggie Smith and Alan Bates and Anthony Hopkins and you know, Laurence Olivier and John Gielgud.
Has anybody done your life story?
I'm rewriting the book now. It's called And I Have the Pictures to Prove It.
What a great title.
It's a good title. A friend gave me that title.
So you're writing a book, but no one's done a movie about you.
No, not yet.
Well, get
not
moving.
Yet, no.
All right, Raquel Welch. What'd you think of her?
Pass.
Oh, okay. We'll pass on that. All right, Lily Tomlin.
Lily Tomlin, adore her. She's great. You know, she just sent me a good luck at Yale thing today on Facebook. I love her. She's so smart, so dedicated to her craft, a brilliant comedian and actress. I'm so happy that Frankie and Johnny's a big hit, and that Jane Wagner is in the show. Author at Yale, and she wrote all of Lily's materials in the Tony-winning play Intelligent Signs of the Universe, and she's a good friend, and she does so much for charity, AIDS work, and anything to do helping young actors and people just starting out in the business.
Paying it back.
They have a production company. They give a lot of money to little theaters and things.
Paul Newman.
Paul Newman, just nicest.
Is he a peach of a guy? I mean,
Peach.
He raised his children here in Connecticut.
Yeah, I know his daughter, but he was the most eloquent, elegant. Look at those eyes, so good looking.
How blue were they?
They were blue, X-ray blue. Yeah, no. He was the king. He was the king.
All right, Al.
Al, crazy, electric, brilliant,
Pacino,
possessed. Pacino, Al Pacino. Yeah. This picture was taken in Switzerland on the set of Bobby Deerfield, a film that we did there, and I like it. I like that spatial thing with the arm stuck out there. And
how much time did you spend on a plane over 52 years?
Lots. I love.
So frequent flyer miles.
I used to love flying. No more.
No, it's a different.
Not with it. No, it's different.
Clint Eastwood.
Hey, Clint was great. You know, again, I got to work with Clint because I photographed his partner, a lovely lady, an actress, and this was from a film called Any Which Way Can Go or something like that. He was great, charming, and I photographed him 3 other films. He became part of the family. And I was honored at the Carmel Film Festival a few years ago, and he's the president of the Carmel Film Festival, and he was there to give me an award. So that was pretty cool.
So this is just a part of your celebrity shooting. You do authors, you do, you know, anybody on the face of the planet that's famous. Who have you not shot that you wished you would have, or you're still after them?
Not shot. I mean, there's so many great young stars coming up now, and just amazing faces, and you know, I don't really want to photograph much anymore. Once in a while, there's an artist. I love photographing artists, or a star architect. You know,
So Audrey Hepburn got away. Did you ever get a shot of her?
So, to go back to the honeymoon with Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner. So one night in Venice, we ended up having dinner with Audrey Hepburn and her husband, who was an Italian doctor. Audrey Hepburn and Natalie Wood, all in one. She, to me, is still on screen when I see on Turner Classic Movie, just incandescent. So elegant and extraordinary. So yeah, I did, and I had dinner with her twice in Rome, and we were at the Venice, and then Natalie and Robert Wagner drove me from Venice after their honeymoon. They were going to the Princess Grace Ball in Monte Carlo. I said, would you like to come with us? I said, well, you know, I'm going to Monaco because Michael York and his wife invited me to stay with him. So I said, well, come with us. So it was like 2 for the road, all of us in the Mercedes convertible, going to the Princess Grace Ball, which I did not get invited to, but it was wonderful. You know.
What a life you've had.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this. Here's a book, Icons and Legends. There's more in here. Just stunning photographs. And then you have something important at the Beinecke at Yale this summer. Did you give them photographs? As a permanent exhibit?
I approached Tim Young there at the Beinecke about two and a half years ago with the idea. He just said, oh, I've been a fan of your work. I love it. So one thing led to another, and he curated the show so well, and I don't know, I can't remember how many images I gave.
I think 100.
I think it's 100.
Yeah.
100, but they have about 35 or 40 in the show, which is going on the walls.
And here are more photographs.
More postcards available.
I mean, this is crazy.
But yeah, but let me tell you how I started with Author, which has toured 14 museums and libraries around America. And because I have a passion for writers, and it all came from when I was, you know, of 12, 13 years old, living in North Carolina. There was a librarian who adopted me and mentored me because I didn't know anything about writers and books. I learned everything about literature from her. And I was volunteer in the library after school every day. And that's how I fell in love with authors and books. So I'm glad to be at the Beinecke Library.
Well, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
A really big deal. As you're at this point of your life, Do you like the word retirement, or you hate that?
No, I'm not retired. I've never worked so hard in my life.
Tell me, so what are you doing? What is your day like?
What is my day like? I'm dealing with 10 or 11 film festivals now. It's the 50th anniversary of Midnight Cowboy, which my partner directed. Very proud of it. Great movie. Won 3 Oscars, and the AFI said it's their number 37 out of the 100 greatest American movies ever made. So we're doing all the film festivals, going around with that.
Well, that keeps you busy, and you're based in Palm Springs.
Yeah, Palm Springs, yeah. Palm Springs is good because I get a lot done there. People leave me alone.
And it's a great place to be.
Right now it's so hot there.
So, Michael, how do you sum up what has happened to you? All these authors and all these stars, and do you look back on it and go, it went like that? Or, I mean, that was incredible hard work involved in that.
I have a lot of gratitude. I feel I was blessed. I was lucky. I was at the right place at the right time. Yeah, I mean, if I hadn't been at UCLA, if I'd stayed at University of North Carolina or Duke, I would have never met half those people. My career would have been different. You know?
Do you think that a guy like you could have a career today like you did?
No, no. I've discussed this with a couple important photographers who are quite well known. And it's tougher. It's so hard now. And they're technically, these kids are better than, I mean, they're brilliant. And they have this and that, and Adobe Photo Workshop, and the cameras are so advanced, but I don't know. The magazines are all going out of business. I cry about that. Every magazine I love is getting that thin. And 5 years, they'll probably be, half of them will be closed, you know.
The September issues were about this thick. Do you remember that?
Remember, weren't they
and they
great?
were called Slicks,
I got the new
and
Vanity Fair. It's like that, you know.
Right.
And that makes me sad. So where are the young photographers going to place their work, you know? Yeah, I guess they can get
well, it's all in the cloud, right? It's not being exhibited.
Yeah, it's all in the cloud. So, and everyone that has an iPhone thinks they're Richard Avedon. So, not.
What was your? No, they don't even know who it is.
No.
What was your favorite camera to shoot with?
Favorite camera? Well, I love my first cameras with Nikon, and then the best thing I ever had was my Rolex, the old view camera, 2 1/4 film. I love that. Then I was lucky enough when I was an assistant in New York City, working with some top photographers. I was able to buy an old, beat-up, used Hasselblad. I love the Hasselblad
Because
they just photographed the men and women look great with that Zeiss lens, and it just the crispness and the brightness of it. Just beautiful, beautiful image. And then later years, the Mamiya, the 4x6, big film. I photographed a lot of authors and artists on that because I love the big negative and blow the pictures up.
it's such a romantic time, right? That's gone.
Yeah, but you know, I talk to young kids. I like being surrounded by young kids who are doing really great things because they keep me in touch, you know.
Do you remember your first cover? What was it, and how thrilling was that to see that on a newsstand?
Gee, I don't remember the first.
I mean, Vogue calls up and says,
Vogue,
"Hey,
yeah,
we'd like you to do
yeah.
a cover."
Well, it was very. I mean, see yourself in Vogue, you know, with a credit. Rolling Stone. I love Rolling Stone in those days. I love rock and roll. I worked with so many rock and roll performers, and my first job in London, I got hired to do a James Brown tour north of England.
Wow.
Me, a little white boy with James Brown, and the opening act was Tina Turner, who blew my mind. And there I was, you know, and just taking these pictures. So I used my pictures of Tina. They were all over English Vogue. She loved it.
Well, you've had an amazing life. And I can't believe you're sitting here with me. So this is terrific, just hearing your stories. We could go on and on, but I guess we got to wrap it up now. Any final words to photographers out there?
Yeah, keep clicking.
I love that. Keep clicking. Michael Childress, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate
It's been a pleasure.
Trivial pursuits when one they send. Who's this girl? spend all night kissing, and if Walter's right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked if I'm so wishing to find the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Things keep locked in the grocery store, but mine just to save time. Skip right ahead to the last ride.